history that we were all taught growing up is wrong.
He looks like a member of the Flat Earth Society.
While opinions vary widely between flat earthers and the COVID disbelievers, one unifier is certainty that an election victory is being stolen.
Next.
News! Picture news here!
Alex, what's today's news?
Doesn't matter, it's all fake.
There's a hidden history in this country that nobody knows about. There are pyramids here, chambers, tombs, inscriptions. They're all over this country. We're going to investigate these artifacts and sites, and we're going to get to the truth.
Lexi, tell us something interesting.
Okay, the Earth is flat, and a witch stole his pants.
Maximus, send this message to Prince Constantine.
Sometimes history isn't what we've been told.
Alicia, remind me to delete those tapes.
Yes, Mr. President. I ain't deleting
Come walk with me. Come talk to me.
He firmly believes that the Earth is flat. He's on a Twitter mission to prove it, and he says he has photographic evidence and that we've been fooled all this time.
Of course, in a free society, you can and should think whatever you want. If you want to think the world is flat, go right ahead.
You don't believe in flat Earth, but you can kind of understand where I'm coming from.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity.
I was shocked. You should be very scared. So ask yourself this. How much of your private information are you really comfortable giving away?
Let me look on the internet. They'll know I'm searching for it.
In this video, we're going to test your privacy comfort level. Seriously, where is your red line?
They know a lot more about you than you may even know about yourself.
Because there's a lot more at stake than you think, and time is running out to do anything about it.
Voices on the right and left are working right now to breathe life into those old flat earth theories of protectionism. Of isolationism, that there is no going back. Our new world is far smaller.
Every smartphone, every phone at all, is constantly connected to the nearest cellular tower. Every phone, even when the screen is off, you think it's doing nothing, you can't see it because radio frequency emissions are invisible, it's screaming in the air, saying, here I am, here I am.
Communications far more instant. Our horizons stretch much farther with each generation. This is 1991.
In a year-long series, we've shown you how your privacy is being invaded at an industrial scale.
You are followed 24/7, 365 days a year.
Everything you do is being, watched.
I mean, even we're doing it to you right now. Despite that, you haven't gone through the settings on your phone, have you? You probably don't use a VPN, and I know you don't read the terms and conditions before clicking accept. But while you're busy not thinking about it, your private information is being raided, traded, and used against you in terrifying ways.
Here's my IMEI and the INSI, and you can search for these things. They're two globally unique identifiers that only exist anywhere in the world in one place, right? It makes your phone different from all the other phones. The IMEI is burned into the handset of your phone. No matter what SIM card you change to, it's always going to be the same, and it's always going to be on the phone network.
Fast forward 2 decades. Technology changed, and so did the world. In the weeks following 9/11, the Bush administration started a vast, secretive, and controversial surveillance program that let the National Security Agency monitor who Americans were talking to, by phone and email.
It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition.
In case you're wondering, all of this is legal, and the software cost us less than $100 on Amazon.
That was a little spooky.
Now anyone can collect the biometric information of members of the public and dig into their lives.
It was a picture of the side of my head taken from above. Clearly it was enough to identify with my website picture, which was actually taken probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Now, maybe this is news to you, but law enforcement agencies figured this out 20 years ago. Today, they've got access to photographs of tens of millions of Americans, images they run against descriptions of suspects thousands of times a year. Researchers have told us there's a 50-50 chance your face is in that database.
Because by now, the United States had become the world's information superhighway, and much of the globe's communications were routed inside the country. FISA, that 30-year-old law that was meant to spy inside the country, was used as a prism to spy on the outside world. That allowed the government to monitor foreigners who were chatting on American wires.
And we will knock down barriers wherever we find them.
The INSI is in your SIM card, right? And this is what holds your phone number, right? It's basically the key, the right to use that phone number. And so your phone is sitting there doing nothing, you think, but it's constantly shouting and saying, I'm here. Who is closest to me? That's a cell phone tower. And every cell phone tower with its big ears is listening for these little cries for help. And going, all right, I see Joe Rogan's phone, right? I see Jamie's phone, I see all these phones, they're here right now. And it compares notes with the other network towers, and your smartphone compares notes with them to go, who do I hear the loudest?
How does that affect Americans? Well, all this spying on foreigners gives the US government backdoor access to incidentally collect your information. Emails, live chats, photos, file transfers, even if you are not the target. All this is happening without the standard warrants we've come to associate with suspected criminal wrongdoing, all in the name of national security.
And we will knock down barriers wherever we find them.
Like catching criminals, but never before have law enforcement agencies had powers like this, and right now, there's no legislation that puts a limit on it. So, have we reached your comfort level yet? Maybe you're okay with companies manipulating your emotions and your face being in a police database. Fine. But let's try taking this up just one more level.
And who you hear the loudest is a proxy for proximity, for closeness, distance, right? They go, whoever I hear more loudly than anybody else, that's close to me. So you're going to be bound to this cell phone tower, and that cell phone tower is going to make a note, a permanent record, saying this phone handset with this phone number at this time was connected to me, right? And based on your phone handset and your phone number, they can get your identity, right?
If you're not an American and you're living outside the country, collecting your communication is fair game. But whether the government can read it, well, that all depends on the strength of your encryption.
Through open markets, for instance, for our computer software.
Extensive? The government had spent a whole decade reading the metadata on your emails, your texts, and your phone calls.
There's an expression, why rob a bank? Well, that's where the money is. There's never been a time in history when more information about you was available because of information you willingly give up.
And this hasn't stopped, by the way. The Patriot Act, which contains all of these powers, was quietly renewed again at the end of 2019.
And when somebody is trying to get to a phone, it compares notes. The network compares notes to go, where is this phone with this phone number in the world right now? And to that cell phone tower that is closest to that phone, it sends out a signal saying, we have a call for you. Make your phone start ringing so your owner can answer it. And then it connects across this whole path. But what this means is that whenever you're carrying a phone, whenever the phone is turned on, there's a record of your presence at that place that is being made and created by companies. It does not need to be kept forever. And in fact, there's no good argument for it to be kept forever. But these companies see that as valuable information, right? This is the whole big data problem that we're running into. And all this information that used to be ephemeral, right? Where were you when you were 8 years old, you know? Where were you? Where'd you go after you had a bad breakup? You know, who'd you spend the night with? Who'd you call after? All this information used to be ephemeral, meaning it disappeared, right? Like the morning dew, it would be gone. No one would remember it. But now, these things are stored. Now, these things are saved. It doesn't matter whether you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't matter whether you're the most ordinary person on Earth, because that's how bulk collection, which is the government's euphemism for mass surveillance, works. They simply...
Make no mistake, Big Brother is watching. According to Safety.com, the average American is caught on camera 238 times each week. Wow.
Movies, books, and
collect it all in advance in hopes that one day it will become useful. And that was just talking about how you connect to the phone network. That's not talking about all those apps on your phone. They're contacting the network even more frequently, right? How do you get a text message notification? How do you get an email notification? How is it that Facebook knows where you're at? You know, all of these things, these analytics, they are trying to keep track through location services on your phone, through GPS, through even just what wireless access points you're connected to, because there's a global, constantly updated map. There's actually many of them of wireless access points in the world, because just like we talked about, every phone has a unique identifier that's globally unique. Every wireless access point in the world, right? Your cable modem at home, whether it's in your laptop, every device that has a radio modem has a globally unique identifier.
Here's how those 238 camera views rack up. Cameras capture you at home or in your neighborhood 14 times a week, 160 times behind the wheel. While you're working, candid cameras catch you 40 times, maybe more if you're in retail, travel, or high security industries, and 24 times a week while shopping or running errands.
Pharmaceuticals.
So, how do you feel now? Did any of that cross a line for you? I hope so. But do you know what? Your personal comfort level isn't actually the most important thing here. This goes way beyond just you or me. Together, as a society, we need to draw a line in the sand. Otherwise, companies, law enforcement, and the government will keep pushing past it.
Seeing a very rapid increase in the amount of public cameras that Americans are subject to. Right now, we have about 15 cameras for every 100 people in America, about 50 million cameras. And that's more per capita than any other country in the world, even China. I mean, the basic concern is that we're going to lose our privacy and we're going to become a country that's different from what we've always been. That from the moment you step out of your front door until you return home at night, every moment of your life in public will be recorded, potentially scrutinized, watched.
He says it's often artificial intelligence keeping track, not humans.
Computers that analyze your daily routines and understand what you're doing, what you're carrying, what you're wearing, who you are, what your attributes are, and filing that away.
They can see everything about you. They can see everything about what your device is doing, and they can do whatever they want with your device. You, on the other hand, owned the device. Rather, you paid for the device. But increasingly, these corporations own it. Increasingly, these governments own it. And increasingly, we are living in a world where we do all the work, right? We pay all the taxes. We pay all the costs. But we own less and less. And
we will fight hard against protectionism.
You know, in reality, there is no line. There's very little kind of legal limit, and we don't have a lot of moral or ethical boundaries about this stuff.
There's actually no right to privacy in the U.S. Constitution, even though people in this country do think they have one.
Bills are already making their way through Congress, but it's hard to imagine we'll get real privacy protections when tech companies spend tens of millions lobbying our government.
How are we striking this balance between the need to keep the American people safe and our concerns about privacy? Because there are some trade-offs involved.
People in power want you to believe that your privacy is something you have to compromise in order to be safe.
Health experts agree the biggest concern is the potential for government tracking its citizens under the guise of crime prevention.
We're seeing some cities like Chicago putting police cameras all over the city and networking them together. They're also tying in private cameras. In some cases, the Ring cameras are being networked together by Amazon, which takes all the camera feeds and puts them in the cloud, potentially making them available to the authorities.
Both at home and abroad. And 5 centuries ago, a man of courage and vision set sail from Europe, searching for new trade routes and opportunities. And he defied the timid counsel of those who said the earth was flat. Christopher Columbus's voyage to the Americas transformed human history.
But it's not impossible to have both at the same time.
Part of the solution, experts say, is private citizens asking themselves several questions before installing cameras on personal property. Do you trust the manufacturer who may store images on their own servers? Do you trust the internet? Because any cameras tied to the web are susceptible to being hacked. And do you trust the government? That in many cases can use a warrant to access what your camera captures.
If you and I don't stand up for our rights to privacy, now we will find ourselves sleepwalking into mass surveillance. And even if you do have nothing to hide, that affects you too.
Everybody has secrets.
Even if everything you do is perfectly legal and on the up and up and you don't have anything to hide, when you know you're being watched, I think you subconsciously change your behavior and it has this kind of chilling effect.
That's what's really at stake here. Our freedom to speak and act and think how we want.
And it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge.
A society of surveillance is just one step away from a society of submission.
Why? Why would anybody lie about that?
If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting.
I heard you say that. People were getting all excited. It's like, there's no way that he wasn't joking in this situation.
They got upset. And my theory is, I bought a bus a couple summers ago. So when I drive from Florida to California, it seems flat to me.
I see. Okay.
So you ever been in a flight, you get ready to land, and you pull up the window, and you look?
Yeah.
It seems flat, right?
Well.
So that was my theory.
Where's the money in line about the Earth being flat? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
I'm just joking. Relax.
They almost took your PhD in education away.
Yeah, they did.
You will have successes and setbacks too. This loss hurts, but please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it.
This can be absolutely planned, and it's a conversation topic. They want us to do something. They either want to diminish our voice or our significance, or draw contact, and they can crush us.
Listen, the reality of Earth and space is crazy enough, you dumb cunts. You don't have to fake conspiracies. The reality of this whole thing is so fucking uber bizarre. We're in a giant ball that's floating in the sky.
So
above us is something a quarter the size of us. It's floating in the sky, and it doesn't even fucking spin, and you need it there. And it regulates the tides. And if it was any further or any closer, everybody would be dead. That's crazy! That itself is fucking crazy.
This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
And so, we need you to keep up these fights now and for the rest of your lives.
You don't have to pretend the Earth is flat, you fucking retards. That doesn't help anybody.
But if you think the world is flat and you have influence over others, as would successful rappers or even presidential candidates, then being wrong becomes being harmful to the health, the wealth, and the security of our citizens. Discovery and exploration got us out of the cave, and each generation benefits from what previous generations have learned. Isaac Newton, my man, said, if I had seen farther than others, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. I get an amen! Woo!
You have the money. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convince you, Alex. My point is, you gotta find it on your fucking own. There's no way you're gonna be convinced. No one has ever been convinced.
Well, so we're gonna debate this in a minute.
They have to really find it within themselves and do some deep.
No, I understand. What I'm telling you is
soul searching.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.